Thank you so much for having me. I am Dilruba Chowdhury, and I'm a director of East Coast Group. Uh, I am going to just share why I'm a part of this, and thank you so much for having me again. Eat well, it means a lot of things to different people. I'm here because I really started caring about my fitness when I had a knee injury and I had to get surgery, and I gained a lot of weight. And obviously, we all feel conscious about our bodies, about our health. So I thought that it was high time that it's not just about aesthetics or looks, but I really needed to start taking care of myself. So here I am today, and I would love to talk about more about having not just like a healthy lifestyle, but a healthy movement all over. Thank you so much.
Hi everyone, I'm Kazi Inam Ahmed. I'm a director of Gemcon Group and Kazi and Kazi Tea. So Kazi and Kazi Tea is the first and only organic tea in Bangladesh. I'm also the director of Mina Bazaar, which was one of the first supermarket chains that promoted organic foods and everything. So I think in terms of eating well and eating healthy, I think I'm sure we'll talk about more. I think I would like to also touch on the fact that eating should be fun, and it's not, because I think whenever we think of eating healthy, we think about diet and it can be hard, but eating should be fun also.
Yeah, thank you. And before we begin, let's just have a moment to recognize Kazi Inam and and take a moment to remember him in his passing. He was a very crucial member of the wellness movement in Dhaka, and founded the first and only organic tea garden, in Kazi Tea in Chowdhury. And also, Mina Bazaar is an organic food to the local market, and is known for establishing Gemcon Group and changing the media landscape of Bangladesh with Kaiser Kabir. He also founded the University of Liberal Arts in Bangladesh, which focuses on liberal arts education. So a very important member, and we'd just like to take a moment to remember him. Thank you. Would you like to say any words before we begin? No. Okay, thanks. All right, so let's to kick this off, let's recognize that eating is a really critical component of all of our lives. It's part of celebration, it's part of socializing, it's part of having fun. And we all want to have those foods, which maybe our cultural foods are not the healthiest, but it's part of enjoying. So let's talk about how we can eat healthy while having fun and observing our cultural traditions.
The first thing to recognize is nutrition science is an inexact science. So if I want to give an example, if you take one inexact science, economics, assume that's the father, and then you take a highly inexact science, which is psychology, consider that to be the mother. The offspring is an extremely inexact science, and that's nutrition science. So having said it, you have to bear that in mind, because nutrition advice has changed over time radically, and something that is said to be healthy is actually very, very unhealthy. I mean, for example, because of corporate lobbying in the U.S., polyunsaturated fats were touted as being healthy after the Second World War. And now they are saying that it's actually polyunsaturated oils can get denatured while cooking. So it's very bad for you. So you go back to what our grandparents had. They used to have ghee and butter. And so we don't exactly know what is happening. And the other thing to note that because it's an inexact science, there is a great deal of interpersonal variability in how food affects you. So whatever you see on YouTube particularly, don't believe it right away. Read a bit and then you get into it. Having said that, there are one or two things that have stood the fullness of time. One is generally sugar is very bad for you. Sugar is tantamount to poisoning. to poison. There is almost nothing good about sugar. So that's point number one. So how we are going to have Eid celebrations and iftar, healthy iftar, is very difficult. It's very good, but you keep that in mind. Sugar is bad for you. We know that fiber is good for you. This has stood the fullness of time. We know that the jury is still out on where oils stand, because when I told my cardiologist that I read that ghee is good for you, and he said, "Are you nuts?" You know, so, but whereas on YouTube, I mean, ghee is next to manna from the sky. You know, so we really don't know where we are on that. But we also know that there are certain foods that are good for our gut microbiome, where there are about trillions of bacteria in our stomach, and that have a critical bearing on healthy your health. And so foods that are fermented and that are good for your gut microbiome, those you should go. So, but I think to get into healthy eating, I don't think in any festival in the world healthy eating is promoted. So this, you're talking about a massive cultural change.
Thank you so much. I would actually like to add to that. We're talking about ghee and oils. So today I'm actually here to represent one of our olive oil brands, Olio, Orolio. And I can say by far and with a hand on my heart that it is one of the best olive oils in the country, because people keep asking me, okay, Olio, Orolio, extra virgin olive oil or the pure olive oil or the massage oil, you keep saying these are halal oils. What do you mean by halal oils exactly? I've been asked this question ever since I entered the gates, I think 20, 30 times. So I might as well clear it out for all of you if you want to know. It is the purest form of oil. It has zero impurities, and because you want to ensure that whatever you eat maintains its true nutritional content, because it will help you. It does have benefits. Everything has its perks, everything has its cons, but then when something is as pure or natural as it gets, you want to have the best form of that. And in that sense, when you talk about ghee or olive oil or anything that is a part of the, not just the culinary process, but also for making sure you have nutrition in your food that will keep you healthy, wealthy and wise, then you should try and figure out, okay, am I having the correct thing? Am I having it too much? Or should I have it in moderation? So I guess I would say moderation is key, and I'm very happy to see that so many products are being promoted here today. It's not just about food, it's not just about yoga or self-defense classes, everything together, all the services, it's a movement. We're building a community, and we should do that every single time, because people, we're human beings, we tend to forget. So it's very important to keep coming back to it, so that somebody can tell you that, okay, if you sway from your journey, you come back to it. Either you can do it yourself, but someone can help you do it. And I believe that together we can do that. Thank you.
Leslie, can you repeat the question again?
Yeah, it's thinking about how we can make healthy eating fun and enjoyable and incorporate into the celebratory occasions, which often have food that's possibly not the most healthy for us.
As Leslie mentioned at the beginning, I will go back to like our company. Can you guys hear me? Yeah. And Meena Bazaar, which was founded by my father, and he sadly recently passed away. But I'll just share a story of kind of like what his belief of eating and everything was, and why he founded these companies in that sense. And I think, first of all, a few things about him, about my father, that I'll say, and that just helps so much understanding about food that I always saw was so important, is whenever he sat down to eat, the first question he would ask, looking at the table, even the food that was served, where is this from? And why I'm saying where is this from, যেটা কোত্থেকে, meaning, actually we all have a lot of opportunity. He always grew most of the food that he consumed. So he was asking whether it is from his tea garden that it has come today, whether it's from literally the rooftop or the food. So I think that's something we look at, because Bangladesh, I think, has amazing ranges of vegetables. If you want to be a vegetarian here, this is the best country to be vegetarian in that sense. And in that, I'll just add one thing. Our tea garden, Kazi Tea, which is the first and only organic USDA EU certified tea garden in Bangladesh. So all the vegetables, all the fruits, everything, all the herbs that's grown there. So anything that you see, whether it's our jasmine green tea, the jasmine, whether it is our turmeric tea, which has the turmeric, everything is actually USDA certified organic, and it's also only the fair trade company in Bangladesh. So one of the things that he did was he made sure there's a lot of vegetables that are grown in that garden, a lot of which comes to also Mina Bazaar, which is where you get a lot of this organic food. He actually made it that anyone that visits, and kind of like the space that we have to stay there, that you only are served vegetarian food. So if you come there and if you stay there, if you eat there for the guests, for the people, because our country has so much amazing vegetarian food. Of course, as he retired and I got more involved, I started serving some meat and fish, but he always kept that of like, this should be purely vegetarian. You can really have amazing vegetarian meals which can be very healthy. And the last thing I will say is even what Kaiser was talking about, even in terms of introducing, like 25 years ago with Mina Bazaar, one of the things that we really started talking about and promoting, and we were the first to serve, is also going back to, like we always talk about, even he used to talk about, when we say Nana Dada the Shumai and everything it used to be, we didn't have polished white rice. It used to be only brown and red rice, which is always available in any of the Mina Bazaars. And he made it that this should come back to the market. He said, when I grew up, when I used to see, there is to be only red rice. There was no white rice. So a lot of these things were culturally things that we had, which, as Kaiser was also saying, sometimes corporates or other reasons or different reasons, it did change. And now we're trying to go back and discover what our roots and the origins used to be. And I think that's always an interesting thing, and that also makes it for it to be a fun celebration when we eat.
Thank you. So, perhaps one thing that I heard from a few people is that it might be hard sometimes to take all of the sugar and take all of all the sugar out of the celebratory foods, which makes me think of a phrase that I learned living in Spain, which is una vez al año, no hace daño, which is once a year, doesn't do so harm. So I heard a few of our speakers speak about moderation, as well as incorporating local foods and good oil. So another component of eating well is sustainability. So how can we make diet choices, food choices that are sustainable and that are also good for our planet?
So here I go back to my point that nutrition science is inexact. There was a time in the 60s and 70s, they would say carbohydrates are not fattening, get plenty of it. Now people are saying, no, carbohydrates are full of sugar, and you should try and burn fat. You get your liver used to burning fat, so go on a ketone diet. And going on a ketone diet for 3 months and then binging on donuts. And because it's very difficult to have, for most people, like Inam went back to, despite his father's wisdom, he said, I'm going to eat meat. So he's eating meat because it's not easy. It is not easy. So keep it in balance. And for example, if you want to eat a lot of rice and you go back to your ancestors, whether they ate red rice or pink rice or whatever rice, the fact is our ancestors, our ancestors worked in the field. So they went out, they burnt an enormous amount of calories, and so they could have any kind of rice. We can't, and especially in the tri-state area, we eat far too much. We eat far too much carbohydrates. We eat far too much processed food. So the thing is, he's talking about Meena Bazaar or any other supermarket. If you eat healthy, all supermarkets are going to shut down because you're going to get the vegetable section and make the meat and fish section. In between are all processed foods, which are bad for you. So you get healthy when you promote healthy food, but the economy collapses. That is another thing that to bear in mind. So sustainability is very, very difficult. So, but you keep moving towards that. Let's say if we go back to eating healthy, the concept of breakfast in many countries it didn't exist, and particularly in the Middle East, there was a saying that let us earn our breakfast. So people, and then said, I'm a little tired. Maybe we ought to have something. So that's when coffee started. So Muslims actually popularized coffee around the world. So everything that you hear has a history, and then you relate it back to the present times, and you decide whether it's appropriate. You know.
Thank you so much. That was very insightful, and I really enjoyed those stories. We were talking about sustainability. I would like to add just one thing. You're extremely right about our ancestors. They earned it. They earned all their meals. What do? I don't have to tell you what we do. We don't do anything. So, and I mean it in a generalized manner. I'm sure you all work very hard. I think that mindfulness is very important. Whatever you eat, whenever you eat, you have to be conscious. Every bite you take. If I'm eating something just mindlessly, oh, ami ekhane jacchi, oh, ami eta order dichi, oh, acha ki dekhbo khawar shomoy on Netflix. You know, don't do that. I mean, I say it as a way like, it's like a very therapeutic thing. Food just doesn't nurture our body, it nurtures our soul. We want to feel good about it when we're having something. I truly believe that when you're having a meal, one should not feel bad or guilty. One should think about, what am I eating? What are the colors? What are things? Every bite I want to savor. But that's just me. I feel like that is also a part of sustainability. If you know what you're having and if you're being mindful, I think you're halfway there. You will make more conscious choices. I'm going to buy more vegetables. I will buy so and so things from here. I will avoid processed foods. It is very tough nowadays because most of the things are processed. You cannot avoid it. It's just there. But you know, you don't have to do everything perfectly. It's just the little steps. It's one step at a time. It's one decision at a time. But that's how I think we can sustain a more healthier future for all of us. Thank you.
So I think I'd like to add a few things quickly. I think individual choices can make a big difference. So I'm also, as Kaiser was saying, with Meena Bazaar, I'm also with the Supermarket Association, and we were just recently having this discussion that think about when you go to these stores, whether it is Agora, Unimart, Meena Bazaar, you know, the bags, they're giving it to you for free. So we were just talking about that, can we introduce that you have to buy the bag, because actually the bag is quite costly and it's getting more. So let's say it was the economic reason first that these brands are looking at. And we were started talking about the conversation that years ago, I remember growing up seeing, used to have like the jute bag that the family person or whoever is going shopping used to take and buy everything and bring it back. So it's also a question of, and we started finding out, so we started doing a check in all these supermarkets and we started finding out, forget buying the bag, of course a lot of the customers don't want to do it, people are asking for extra bags. So let's say come, because they want more bags. So that is not good actually for our environment in total. So we're actually talking about a way whether we start introducing. So I think when things like that are there in our choice, that we can do, or even when, let's say, brands try to do, we can, as individuals, play that role in supporting things like that, what we choose. And I think what Kaiser also said is very true in the sense that at the end of the day, it's hard to avoid the fact that there are packaged food, other things, the corporations, and but I think individual choices where we start seeing, even in America now, in cities and everything, how farmers markets are becoming a big thing. So even over here, I will see more and more if we start choosing, whoever's the seller will start selling something else in that sense. So I think that is, so I think that individual change is the most important, and that's something saying it again, like I always saw, my father used to always talk about first change yourself and then you'll see what happens. It made no difference. So I think that's the courage that you need sometimes to change and sometimes to go back, sometimes to do something difficult. So I think for us, even individually, those are the little things that we can also do, and we don't always have to think that you don't have to build a big tea garden to make a contribution. You can do it just in your little corner of the house if you have a bit of space, in your rooftop, in your balcony. And one fun fact, in Panchagor now, he also said he was not going to build like big tea gardens in the old format. He's going to have people who work in the garden who also live in their homes. That's why he also set up a Kazi Foundation, which is like we used to give cows to the villagers and they pay us back actually in cow dung because we need it for organic tea garden. So they keep half of the milk, we use half of the milk. That's how we have a dairy and everything. So it's a beautiful model, but more importantly, that culture meant we have small growers in Panchagor now, and Panchagor now produces 20 million kgs of tea in Bangladesh. So that is a fun fact. So I think the other important thing is whether it's good for the environment, sustainable things that you do, individually when we do something, small companies when they do some things, others, you can influence others. And that is the real importance of change maker, whatever we want to achieve in terms of making a difference actually for a better world.
I had a lot of your tea yesterday. I had a long meeting.
Sustainable diet in and of ourselves, like what we're eating, and also food choices and sustainability for the larger food system. Let's talk now about, eating well, and there's already been some great discussion about what eating well is and what's important when we're choosing good food for our bodies. Where can we find information? Where can we find information about what's eating well, and how can we share this information about healthy diets more broadly in our communities?
Okay. There's a lot of information available on the internet. I would urge you to not just restrict yourself to... I would urge you not to restrict yourself to YouTube videos because they can be very cult-like in what they promote. So listen to scientists. And what I find that people who are really wise have a lot of self-doubt and a lot of doubt about their life's work. But people who are, just scratch the surface, they're more like, this is it, you must do this. So apart from finding things on the internet, talk to people who look healthy. So they will tell you a lot of things. And as I said at the beginning, there is a lot of interpersonal variability in diet. So what is good for you is not necessarily good for me. And try to have a balanced diet. Don't go for no carbs or all protein or all vegetables.
Because I don't know everything. It's very hard for me to do that. So campaigns like these, festivals like these, where all the specialists come together, and then it can be up to me. I can make rational choices that, okay, I think this diet, or it doesn't have to be a diet necessarily. It's like a lifestyle that I can base on some healthy choices, and I can keep working on it. I can, you do a lot of networking. Then you can get back to those people. Okay, I tried these plans and it's working for me. What more can I do, or what can I adjust or amend for myself? So I think that this is a great way of finding the information that you need for yourself. Because even if I do meet a lot of healthy people, what worked for them might not work for me, my body, my genetics. There are a lot of things at play here. So we need to factor all of that. Thank you. Thank you.
I think the both of them covered everything. All I learned is that Kaiser Bhai watches a lot of YouTube videos, it seems like. He keeps saying, don't watch it. So I think one thing that he said is very important. While he was saying this, I see two of my nephews sitting there and they look very fit. So I was like, I need to talk to them. What are they doing in terms of eating well, staying healthy? And I have other families here and they'll say it also. I think one important thing about choosing a healthier lifestyle, because I myself have always been a yo-yo in my life where I get fitter, then I get unfit, I get fitter, I do different diets, I've done different fads, whether it is, whatever it is, trying intermittent fasting, doing keto, doing this, no carbs, this and that and everything. I think one of the important things that also food nutritionists talks about, Kaiser Bhai just said, I think always believe in science is important. I actually think one of the most important things that I have felt which has made me, the word I would use is, am I happy doing what I'm doing? And I think that's something I always see with friends, families, when they're trying to go, we start like diet becomes like this thing that is like as if like you're being sent to prison, you know what I mean? And I think it's important to see whatever we choose to do we were talking at the same time about enjoying eating and everything. If you ask someone you're on something and how are you feeling, they always focus on how it's going to make them look. And that becomes the first thing. Whereas the very important thing that Kaiser also said, that recently he decided that he wants to make changes because he had a conversation with the doctor. He wants to take better care of himself. I think that happens to a lot of us. We go and we find out like for some health reason, we saw either somebody in the family got affected or ourselves that we need to make a change. But whatever change that we need to make, is that change and how we're doing it, is it making us happy? And can we sustain it? So being able to sustain it has been always my failure. So I can speak from my failure. That's where I think it's important. Whenever it's worked for me is whenever I felt I'm enjoying this while I'm doing it. And I think it's also important, if you're doing it in a way the kind of person you are, if I'm a social person, I enjoy having meals together. If I'm going to choose a diet where there's nothing I can eat out of, going to dawats, going to weddings or going to other places, then it's not going to sustain in the long run. Trust me. That's what I have felt, which hasn't worked. If you're feeling I'm having to end up eating alone all the time, that's not going to really work. So I think those are like important choices I've personally experienced, but I think all the other things they covered, so I'm not going to repeat those.
Yeah, so I think that brings up a good point. So making choices that are sustainable, so maybe it's doing something small, something incremental, maybe bringing in an accountability partner, somebody else to help you. Maybe there's this one restaurant that I love where instead of getting a full dessert, you can get just an opera spoon, they call it, which is like a big soup spoon. So you just get that taste of sweetness at the end of the meal instead of a big piece of cake or whatever. So many things you can do to make it sustainable. Do we have any questions from the audience? Yeah, go ahead.
One of the things I feel is that we're very disconnected to our bodies, and that's why we're disconnected to our food. To appreciate food, I think you have to be hungry. You have to understand your hunger and thirst. We never go hungry, as you rightly said, we never go hungry. I think food for me tastes best when I haven't eaten in a long time, like during Ramadan, after a fast. Anything tastes so good. Anything I drink tastes so good, and I really appreciate it. This is what we're missing. So, and it's right. One diet doesn't fit everyone. It's our choice. But another important factor, I think, is what we grow. I think depends a lot on the quality of the soil. What is in the soil? Are we putting back those things in the soil? So that's what I thought I was going to mention.
Yeah, thank you. And as an agricultural economist, you hit on some notes that are very dear to me, thinking about sustainability and what's in the soil and growing things. And also thinking about eating local food, I learned that there's farmers growing tea.
Is not to be too cautious. One of the reasons during COVID, the whole of Bangladesh didn't die is because we have beta cells in our body that gives us a lot of immunity. And especially people like myself, we grew up eating a lot of rubbish. And so we have strong immune systems. But children now, and the parents are so worried about what the children are going to get, they have very weak immune systems. So once in a while, if you hurt your body, it's just going to make you tougher. And something that you said, our ancestors, and I know I'm quite old, but I'm talking about the ancestors of my ancestors. I'm talking about hunter-gatherers. They didn't eat all the time. I mean, they went through periods of fasting and feasting, and it was not always very regular. So it doesn't have to be very regimented. You're not in the army. And so you need your body to be able to handle all sorts of stress. So once in a while, cheating is okay. But the problem is our lifestyle. And if you grow up in this tri-state area, one of the things, that I have an advantage is that unlike Inam, I'm considered to be an extremely unpleasant person. So nobody invites me, so I don't have to worry about, what I'm eating. But Inam gets invited to every place, and so he has a biryani, and to him, healthy eating is not having a potato in one day. So, but for me, so if you want to be healthy, be as unpleasant as possible.
I have a problem with the word cheat meal. I'm sorry, I wanted to say that for a while. Again, don't feel guilty about it will make you stressed. It will, the results will be counterproductive. You will end up eating more. I eat my feelings when I'm feeling really bad. I have done that before, but thankfully I have come to this point in my life where I am like, no, I want to be fully aware of everything that I do. So, like Kaiser sir said that, look, it's not regimented, it's not too complicated if you think about it. It's because you feel that way because we have unlimited food supply. I think that is definitely an issue. When you're talking about parents and their children, my daughter is here sitting in the audience. I don't care what she eats. I let her eat whatever she wants, whenever she wants. Because if it's regimented, then you're like, oh, I'm going to indulge myself today. And then when you do that, you have to be very careful. It can be quite dangerous. If you're unmindful, then all the efforts that you have put for yourself, it just all goes into waste. You will feel bad inside that, why did I do this? Things like that, questions like these. So, it's not a cheap meal. If you want to have it, have it. And if it's not regimented, you will actually enjoy it. And then you'll see that you won't want to have too much of it. You'll be able to control. These are things that we can actually control. We just have to keep reminding ourselves, our brains. It's like a very simple brain function. That is why consciousness is so important. Someone from the audience was talking about that we are not connected to our bodies. If you connect to your body, you connect to your mind, then everything you have, everything will fall into place. You will reach alignment. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And we're about to wrap up. If you want to share, we've spoken about, what eating well is, sustainable eating, healthy eating, corporate responsibility, and what businesses can do to provide healthy food and sustainable food. So maybe I'll give each of our speakers just a last 30 seconds, last thought that you want to share with our audience before we close out.
I'm just going to say, I'm not going to sum up what we all discussed, but eat fish. This one thing I thought of earlier before. I'm going to sound...
And it'll be good. You'll see that you're probably, after these discussions, maybe with your dad or your mom or your cousin or your daughter, you're joining a class, like maybe going for football or learning kickboxing or going for art, something. Good things will come out of discussion. So I believe that create a lot of awareness amongst yourselves. That is very important.
please read up on circadian rhythms and insulin resistance. I say this because a huge chunk of Bangladeshis are insulin resistant. And you can see, because the skinny arms and legs and this, that's insulin resistance. So read up on it, and generally, we haven't talked about intermittent fasting, but I've been reading up a lot of science on this. I think 12 hours of intermittent fasting is fairly uncontroversial. So if the problem is we eat at say 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night, and then we have, as soon as we wake up, we have breakfast. That science is beginning to show that that's not a good thing. So typically you need a 12-hour break, because as your brain needs rest, so does your stomach. So let's say if you have your last morsel at 8 p.m., don't eat anything until 8 a.m. the next day. And one thing which the Western powers have done to this planet is make us unhealthier, is very English concept called breakfast in bed. That's the worst thing you can do, because when you get up, your melatonin levels, which is the sleep hormone, that goes down, and your stress hormone, cortisol level, goes up. Last thing you should do is start eating when your cortisol levels are rising. So the idea is, next to your partner, you said, today is special. I'm going to give you breakfast in bed with white bread and jam. That's the worst thing you can do. Eat, after you get up, wait at least 1 or 2 hours before eating. Change the culture of the world.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. Thank you to our three panelists for sharing so much wisdom, so many insights. I feel like I can be a healthier eater now and eat well now too. Let's give them one more round of applause. Thank you.
That's it. Nice meeting you. Thank you. Okay, Sam.